Following the recent videos about trusts, I have received many requests and emails from clients, even though the channel is still quite small, asking if we could provide banking for high-risk businesses connected to tax havens or companies where the registry is not public. Obviously, creating offshore companies is not a problem. There are many providers, many CSPs like myself, who may be more or less expensive, and there are hundreds of options. In fact, we often cooperate with other company providers who don't have direct contact with a local attorney. But today's topic is about banks, especially banks for high-risk companies in terms of the selected jurisdiction. As I mentioned, the level of risk you present to the bank is what determines whether they accept you or not based on their AML policy. What they usually review is the business activity, where the company is located, and additionally where the UBO, the ultimate beneficial owner, is located. And especially this last point, the harder it is for a bank to see who the UBO is, the higher the risk and the more likely the account will be rejected. Just because you have a company in BVI, the British Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands, Nevis, the Marshall Islands, or Hong Kong doesn't mean you can traditional banking. It's just more difficult. If the funds are already there, like for example in a DBS bank account, we already know the quality of that bank, it's definitely possible. It's just they have some minimum requirements. You might have to maintain 250,000, otherwise there will be horrible fees. But what I mean is you can get good banking with offshore companies, but it's more difficult than with a typical company elsewhere. That doesn't mean you can't have traditional banking, but yes, the fee might be there, perhaps annual maintenance fees, but you have access to those private banking services. The client's background also matters. If they come from a sanctioned country like Russia or Cuba and have a company in the BVI, you are not going to get a deal with those banks in most cases, especially if you are in niches like online casinos, the adult industry, or you are an arms trader. In most cases, you won't get a deal, and if you do, it's something to be grateful for, because it's really not the norm. Generally, what we use to bank our high-risk clients are EMIs we have agreement with. For context, we are partnered with about 30 to 55 neobanks and also some traditional banks that are willing to bank these industries. Some more, some less. That's why we don't need to charge high prices for trusts or companies in the Cayman Islands or BVI, because the real channel lies in getting good banking for those companies. A large part of the money we generate in this firm comes from those banks, not from charging a massive $10,000 company creation fee like many competitors do, but from commission, though nothing like the outreach percentage I have seen from US banks. To be completely transparent with you, these banks usually charge fees for incoming and outgoing transfers and for foreign exchange transactions. Those are generally the typical fees, not counting a possible account opening fee if there is extensive compliance to be covered. Sometimes this fee can be refunded if the client is ultimately not accepted by the bank. At least that's what we usually do. On the topic of commissions, many clients approach me with official bank proposals offering certain percentages for incoming funds. For example, 0.8% of all incoming transfers. Well, if you already have that offer, I have no problem offering you 0.7%. In the end, if you are moving large amounts, that 0.1% makes a difference. And how can you get that? With connections, and we have those contacts in the banks. As for Forex transaction fees, not everyone engages in that type of operation. FX fees are really a case-by-case matter. For instance, we had a client who had an investment fund in his structure and who was offered pretty good fees, but not quite what he had in mind. So he moved all his operation to this bank to get better commissions, and that's exactly what happened. From a holding in BVI to an operating company in the Cayman Islands. Now let's say you have a company in the Bahamas and you are moving from 1 million to 6 million per month in Forex. Obviously, you will be offered very minimal commissions, but if you are only doing 150,000 per million in FX and your total volume is 5 million or 50 million per month and you are only doing a small portion in Forex, typically you won't get much lower percentages. You may be placed at 1% maybe, but it has to be a win-win-win for all three. For me, for the bank, and for you, unless you want a lower percentage in exchange for a higher account opening fee. It really depends on the business objectives, your risk level, and the competition regarding the solution you are seeking. Obviously, some solutions are extremely hard to access. Many others are straightforward. Often, competitors help each other. If I can help you bank a certain business, but I know a competitor who can, I will refer you to them, just likely they do with me. There are always solutions for every type of business. The only question is how realistic you want your expectations to be. If you have to expect a bank account with a Cayman Islands company at a pure 0% commissions rate and free account opening and making adult entertainment, you are free to go to another provider that isn't me, one who tells you what you want to hear and disappears when they have charged you for setting up the company. Many of our negotiations have taken years, even for own projects beyond this firm. For example, this week a client came to us with a business billing around $45 million per month. After reviewing his case, we couldn't help him, but I knew a guy in the Cayman Islands who could, so I referred him. Of course, I will receive something for that referral, let's be transparent, but the client, with a small optimization of 0.2%, is already saving millions of dollars per year. If I take 10% of that, you can imagine a good part of how we make money. I want to be fully honest so you can see how we operate and maybe build a bit more trust in our firm. To keep the video from becoming excessively long, we can secure the banking deals you need. Even if your business is highly complex in terms of activity, as long as you operate it through a legitimate structure, there won't be an issue. How long does it take to open a bank account for my company or offshore company 3? It depends on the case. Sometimes 3 days, sometimes 6, sometimes weeks or even months. If you are a PEP, politically exposed person, or someone in a similar position, we have to declare that status. Expect the process to take 6 months. The bank will have to conduct full due diligence in your case. If you are a simple marketing company based in Hong Kong, then essentially you are fine. It shouldn't take too long. As I said, creating an offshore company can be done by anyone for 1,000 or 2,000 euros, and that's it. But when they send you the documents and you say, great, now what bank will open the account? That's when you will be stuck for months, not knowing what to do. That's why it's better to use a firm that specializes in this and provider you trust, someone you will have a long-term relationship with. That's where we come in. So if you are interested, I invite you to fill out the form in the description below. I'm Victor, and see you soon.